Can you have soul at work? Mondays. How many of you feel like this dog on Mondays? Yeah, you're in New York now. It's pronounced dog. I know, Antoinette, you're forgiven. But this is like the one place where I'm not the one with the accent. So you're on my turf. Yeah. So how many people feel like this on Monday mornings, like this dog? Yeah. How about Sunday night? That you feel, yeah, it starts on Sunday night, doesn't it? Yeah, and my friends tell me, it's work, that's how it's supposed to be, that's just how it is. But I don't think it's a law of nature. I don't think it has to be like that. Hollywood thinks this is funny. We all laugh at these movies at our expense at how toxic the workplace is, and we think it's funny. I don't think it's funny. I think that real life is actually worse than some of these movies. When I saw Office Space, I was like, oh, my life is so much more surreal than this movie. That movie is like nothing compared to my life. We all start, yeah, exactly. We all start out of college and we think, oh, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna crush it. And then like at some point, little by little, it starts to crush us. So what was that point for you? Where was it? I know you're all agile people, so you're like, we love our jobs. But maybe there was a time before that, or maybe some people that you interact with that are having their soul crushed right now. Ever send a fax from a beach? For me, the soul-crushing moment was really early in my career. You know, I was still a senior in college when AT&T used to run these ads about the new technology that was coming out. And one of them was, ever send a fax from the beach? Ever drive across the country without having to stop for ask for directions and they show this little GPS? Ever tuck your baby in from a phone booth and they show like this really old-looking now to us screen and with the baby on the screen and she's like, I was like, what? I want to work there. I want to go work on sending a fax from the beach. So I did. So I got a job out of college as a software engineer at AT&T. And I went, and on my first day with my new suit, all my grown-up clothes, I went into AT&T. And on the first day, this is my literal first day out of college, having a grown-up job, they say, after lunch, there's a mandatory meeting in the big conference room. My first meeting. So I go into the conference room, and it's like standing room only. And I'm like, we're going to talk, maybe they're going to talk about faxing from the beach. But they didn't. They announced layoffs. And my new coworker, my first day, first few hours, my new coworker said, don't worry, you're safe. They don't pay you enough to lay you off. And it turns out they were right. They didn't pay me enough. And also, they didn't lay me off. But my first job and my first day, my view now towards the stability that I was going to get from a company was fairly low. I didn't last long there because, it didn't feel stable to me, and they didn't pay me enough. So what about you? What was your soul-crushing moment? Was it a layoff? Were you the one being laid off? Or were you the poor soul maybe left to do more with less? And then I have these clients who say, don't say layoff. You have to say reduction in force, or even better, just say RIF, because we don't really want to say anything about reduction. Or, they really want to kind of cover it up, like they don't want us to feel the pain that we're feeling, right? So maybe that was the moment. Or maybe your benefits were being reduced, like we're losing vacation days, we're losing bonuses, stock options, healthcare, pensions, whatever, you're losing stuff. I sat in this meeting one time where the manager said to the people, we're reducing bonuses from now on. Like not just this year, because we were doing bad, but like from now on, we're just lowering the percentage that we give for bonuses. The team sat there kind of stunned, like, what are you going to do about it? Who are you going to tell? Who are you going to complain to? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. And management's response to that was, you should be happy that you have a job. You should be grateful. So maybe for you, your soul-crushing moment was the time when you gave up your home time. Now, I know we're all agile people and we love to work from home. We're so passionate about our work. It's not about the working from home and it's not about the always being on. It's about the stigma about not responding quickly during dinner with your kids and being expected to prioritize your work over your home life when you're home. Right? That's what it's about. So maybe for you, the crushing moment was different. Maybe it was when you didn't get the credit for something, or maybe it was when your idea got shut down. There's a whole bunch of ways that you can have your soul crushed at work. Or maybe it was something else for you. So how did we get here? So originally, my grandparents, a lot of grandparents maybe in this room, were sole proprietors. My grandparents were haberdashers. That's people who make hats. I had to learn that word. My husband's grandparents were bakers, different people were like cobblers or grocers or whatever, but it was hard because there's an economic downturn or the weather is bad if you're a farmer. Like, you're not making the same money, it's pretty bumpy. So when people were offered more stability to go work for a company and put on a tie, it was like, yeah, let's do that, that's a pretty good deal. So we gave up some autonomy, we got some stability, right? It's not a terrible deal. They pay us some money, we help make a product that they sell for more than that money they paid us, everybody's kind of happy. Right? It works out. But at some point it changed. It changed from being symbiotic, where it's good for everybody, to being more paternalistic. The company's going to take care of you, we're going to decide what's good for you, and we're making those decisions. The power shifted a bit. So what do we need now? The way that we work has changed. We're not going back to that old way. Right? I'm not suggesting we should go back to that old way. What I think we need to do is take a look at how we work now. The gig economy is one example. And what are our rights? Like, what's that implicit contract in this new way that we're working? So, like, for example, a lot of people, there's different ways of working. We have flexible working, short-term jobs, contractors, like all these different things. It's funny, with contractors, how do we treat contractors? I was in a meeting once, where somebody was complaining about their relationship with the business partners. And they were employees, W-2. And they said, our business partners treat us terrible. They treat us like vendors. They treat us like contractors, like with this disdain, like that's the lowest life form. So I said to him, wow, that sounds kind of rough. And I said, so exactly how do you treat your contractors that's an insult? I mean, really, it's not a license just because they're on a different tax form. Does that mean that they're subhuman? So I think we just really need to take a look at that implicit contract and say, what are our rights now? Like, what rights do we want to defend? So Souls at Work. Souls at Work is a movement with the mission to bring soul back into the workplace. And I think one of the first ways that we need to do that is to be super clear on what our rights are as employees with any kind of pay structure. Soul at Work depends on three things. It depends on power, freedom, and connection. And these are really the same things that also define our rights as employees. So let's look at the three. So power. How does it feel when someone has power over you? Yeah, as humans, we don't love that. I didn't love it as a kid. There were a lot of phone calls that went home to my parents from the school because of that. And then we become grown-ups, right? And when we're grown-ups, what happens? It's like it moves from being a teacher to being a boss. And we think, well, when we get to a high enough level, then we'll be in power and it'll be better. But it never is, because somebody always has power over you. Okay. So I know there was a lot of talk over the past couple of days about servant leadership. If you haven't actually read the servant leadership pamphlet, I highly recommend it. It's 50 pages, it's a pamphlet, it's not a book. You can get through it, I promise. Because there's stuff in there that you might not realize. And one of the quotes that I love is this one. And he's talking about, in contrast to bad leaders, the enemy is strong natural servants who have the potential to lead, but do not lead, or who choose to follow a non-servant. So that second part, who choose to follow a non-servant. We talk about that like voting with your feet and stuff like that, but it really is that there's power in followers. So if we're following something that's maybe not fair, we're giving it power. If you accept something that's not fair, you're sending a signal to all those people around you like, hey, I'm cool with this, and maybe you should be too. So I think as agilists, we really need to look for those sources of untapped power and say, how can we leverage those? So here's a simple one as agilists that we have access to. We've already created access to it, actually. So teams. Traditional teams hub and spoke, right? The manager's in the middle, they do one-on-ones, they dole out the work, and everybody does whatever they say. So where's the power here? Power's in the middle with the manager, right? How does it feel? Like, it feels kind of crappy. If you have a good manager, it's like, it's okay. If you have a bad manager, and good managers leave, and then you have a bad manager and it's not so great. But really, you have a single point of failure. Like somebody said it yesterday. It was Felipe. Like, how do we know what to work on? Because Sam says. How do we know if it's done? Because Sam says, right? So Sam is your manager in the middle. They have all the power. And nobody wants to speak up because you don't want to piss off the manager, really. At that point on this team, your whole job is to make your manager happy. That is your entire job. That is more important to you than doing what's right for the company. Because you can't do what's right for the company if your manager kind of wants to get rid of you. So in Agile, we created teams where now the people are more bonded, but we actually look at it like this, right? The manager's outside the bubble. So we've trained these people. We've trained the teams, and we've learned these skills of collaboration, and we've learned collective voice. So the question is, are the teams using it? Are we seeing teams use it? We're using it for the backlog and for some of the product stuff. But can we use it for more? To balance the power a little bit. All right, so that's connection. So freedom is the next one. So the question here is, do you have freedom to make decisions that align with your values? Right, so if you are bounded by this beautiful house and the standard issue BMW and the beautiful sunny day and vacations, does that stop you from making decisions that are within your values? So I'll tell you a story. There was somebody rolling out a process one time, and it was not going to be good. So I blocked it, because that's what I do. I block stuff. And so his mandate was lock Jardena in a room until she agrees. I had no formal authority, but I guess they cared what I thought. So they locked me in a room, and when I was in said locked room, I said to this person, do you not see what I'm saying? Do you not see how bad this is going to be for the company? And his answer was, yeah, I see exactly what you're saying, but my boss wants it, and I have a mortgage. That's not freedom. And that's not really good for the company. And now that's sad for one person, but now you have thousands of people working there making decisions like this. It's not good. So I want you to take a look at, are you able to make decisions with freedom? And then the third one, so we said there's power, freedom, and connection. So connection is the third one. We all have friends at work, right? Because as humans, we want to have friends, right? That we do that naturally. The question is, are we intentional? And I think Morgan spoke yesterday about that they had an indifferent recruiting process. Like they just weren't intentionally creating connection. So can we intentionally create connection? And what rights do we have for connection? Right, so let's take a closer look at that too. So this is kind of our beta version of Souls at Work Bill of Rights. I am so open and welcoming feedback on this. This was kind of just a first draft of what kind of rights we have. And notice it says, regardless of pay structure. So these are rights if you're a contractor, I don't care what kind of pay structure you have. Contractor, W-2, short-term, long-term, whatever. You still have the right to be happy and fulfilled at work. The right, the freedom to speak up when you don't agree with what's happening. The right not to have your self-worth challenged and judged. The right, and this is a big one, to know exactly what puts your job at risk. And again, regardless of pay structure. The right to not accept, dehumanizing language aimed at yourself or your coworkers. The right not to be manipulated by fear, shame, or threats of job loss. The right to have a vote in decisions that diminish employee benefits or pay. And again, regardless of pay structure, I'm going to emphasize that. And in exchange, we give the company the best version of ourselves and serve the company to our best of our ability. That's my first draft. So what am I asking from you today? What I'm asking you to do is to consider your relationship with employee and employer. As an employee, as an employer, sometimes if we're managers or leaders. Ask yourself, is it fair? Is that relationship fair? And I really want to emphasize here, this is not about is it good, right? Because it's good. We have the car, we have the BMW, we have the nice house, a vacation, our kids are going to a really good college. It's not is it good. The question is it fair? And are you accepting unfairness? Are you witnessing unfairness maybe that you're not involved with? And if so, what would it take to change it? So I've been sitting on these thoughts for years. I didn't really want to say anything because I don't want to piss off my clients, but that's exactly like that person that locked me in the room, right? Like, I'm holding this stuff in. I don't want to speak about what's right and what's wrong because I also have a mortgage. But then I remembered this quote from Edmund Burke. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good people should do nothing. And I realized, with thank you, Evan's encouragement, that I really should start to say something about this. So what I want you to realize is you already have the power, especially as Agilists. We've built that collective voice. We have that power. So the question I have for you is, what are you going to do about it? come visit us at Souls at Work. Thank you.